All right, let's review. Last year in second grade, you started to learn about fractions, and you talked about a pizza and divided that into two. Okay, so if I divide that in half, the way that looks for a fraction is 1 over 2. Okay, so when I want only 1/2, I can shade in. So if I ask for 1/2, what the process is right now is that you would divide that, or shade in to show me that that is half that you are shading. You are shading 1/2. So it needs to be divided in 2, but we use the words half. And the other word we've used is quarter. So let's review that. A quarter is 1 over 4. And just like there are 4 quarters in a dollar, would be another time that you've seen that. And so we divide this into 4 equal sizes. This is not perfectly equal because I can't draw straight. But if I wanted 1/4 of this, I would shade in 1/4. A little better than I'm doing right now, of course, because of that pen. Y'all, this pen. Okay, let's see if we can stay in line. There we go. All right, so one of the things that, again, with patterns in math, let's review something else that you know. So 1/2 of this circle is shaded in. 1/4 of this circle, or pizza, is shaded in because it's 1 out of 4 pieces. And this is how it looks as a fraction. And what we talked about in class the other day is that you've been doing division since second grade and just didn't know it. Because what you did is you literally divided this pizza in half. Division, divided. If you look at this as a division problem, and let me see if I can pull up a calculator. If you divide, and we'll learn the actual process for division later, so I'm going to use the calculator for now until we actually learn about division. So 1 divided by 2 equals, look at that, 50 cents. So there's a decimal. And 50, and you guys have learned about that. When you have 2 quarters, that's 25 cents plus 25 cents, and that equals 50 cents. So that's where that comes from. 1/2 of a dollar, 50 cents. So let's look at a quarter and see if we can figure out the same thing. 1 divided by 4 equals, look at that, 0.25, which is 25 cents, and 1/4 of a dollar. And please remember, we'll also compare that to time. If we do 1/4 of an hour, we'll also review that it's 60 minutes, not 100. And so 1/4 of 60 minutes was how many minutes? We've talked about this a whole bunch recently. 15 minutes. So if you're talking about 1/4 of an hour, that is 15 minutes. And 1/2 of an hour would not be 50, it would be 1/2 of an hour would be what? You got it. 30. 1/2 of an hour is 30 minutes. Okay, so hopefully this gives you just a little review from your pizzas, how to shade in just one part of those. You can also do it with thirds. It's a little bit easier right now to do it with a rectangle for thirds. It's a good thing this is not drawing class right now because this pen goes crazy. Mr. Claypool did not make any comments. And I'm going to shade in 1/3 of my rectangle. Okay, so that's divided into 3 pieces. Okay. All right, and you can also divide an hour into thirds. and that I can do that off the top of my head now, but we can talk more about that later. But that would actually be 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and 20 minutes. So if you did 1/3 of an hour, it would be 20 minutes. You do not have a coin for 1/3, so we can't compare that, but we could do pennies and divide up pennies, but we'd have some left over. So we are not going to do money for 1/3. You can do it, however, for 1/2 and 1/4. Okay, so that's your review for now, and if you'd like to think more about that, you can start playing with fractions, and you can use fractions. You can get a group of books and try to divide them into equal parts. We've talked about how, if you have pages, you can look at one book and see how much 1/4 of a book would be by dividing the pages by 4, and see about how much 1/4 of a book or half of a book, maybe estimating I'm halfway through my book. So you can use fractions in all sorts of ways. So I hope you enjoy beginning your journey in fractions, and we'll be learning a lot about those this week.